strange boy," objected Pollyanna. "I've known him ever so long, and I must go. "What in the world is the meaning of this?" demanded Mrs. Carew, icily, from the drawing room doorway. "Pollyanna, who is this boy, and what is he doing here?" Pollyanna turned with a quick cry. "Oh, Mrs. Carew, you'll let me go, won't you?" "Go where?" "To see my brother, ma'am," cut in the boy hurriedly, and with an obvious effort to be very polite. "He's sort of off his feed, you know, and he wouldn't give me no peace till I come up after her," with an awkward gesture toward Pollyanna. "He thinks a sight and all of her." "I may go, mayn't I?" pleaded Pollyanna. Mrs. Carew frowned. "Go with this boy? You? Certainly not, Pollyanna. I wonder you are wild enough to think of it for a moment." "Oh, but I want you to come, too," began Pollyanna. "I? Absurd child! That is impossible. You may give this boy here a little money if you like, but " "Thank you, ma'am, but I didn't come for money," resented the boy, his eyes flashing. "I come for her." "Yes, and Mrs. Carew, it's Jerry Murphy, the boy that found me when I was lost and brought me home," appealed Pollyanna. "Now won't you let me go?" Mrs. Carew shook her head. "It is out of the question, Pollyanna." "But he says the other boy is sick and wants me." "I can't help that." "And I know him real well, Mrs. Carew. I do, truly. He reads books, lovely books, all full of knights and lords and ladies, and he feeds the birds and squirrels, and gives 'em names and everything. And he can't walk, and he doesn't have enough to eat, lots of days," panted Pollyanna. "And he's been playing my glad game for a year, and didn't know it, and he plays it ever and ever so much better than I do. And I've hunted and hunted for him ever and ever so many days. Honest and truly, Mrs. Carew, I've just got to see him," almost sobbed Pollyanna. "I can't lose him again." An angry color flamed into Mrs. Carew's cheeks. "Pollyanna, this is sheer nonsense. I am surprised. I am amazed at you for insisting upon doing something you know I disapprove of. I CANNOT allow you to go with this boy. Now, please let me hear no more about it." A new expression came to Pollyanna's face. With a look half terrified, half exalted, she lifted her chin and squarely faced Mrs. Carew. Tremulously but determinedly she spoke. "Then I'll have to tell you. I didn't mean to till I was sure. I wanted you to see him first. But now I've got to tell. I can't lose him again. I think, Mrs. Carew, he's Jamie." "Jamie? Not my Jamie?" Mrs. Carew's face had grown very white. "Yes." "Impossible!" "I know. But please, his name IS Jamie, and he doesn't know the other one. His father died when he was 6 years old, and he can't remember his mother. He's 12 years old, he thinks. These folks took him in when his father died, and his father was queer, and didn't tell folks his name, and " But Mrs. Carew had stopped her with a gesture. Mrs. Carew was even whiter than before, but her eyes burned with a sudden fire. "We'll go at once," she said. "Mary, tell Perkins to have the car here as soon as possible. Pollyanna, get your hat and coat. Boy, wait here, please. We'll be ready to go with you immediately." The next minute she had hurried upstairs. In the hall the boy drew a long breath. "Gee whiz!" he muttered softly. "If we ain't goin' ter go in a buzz wagon! Some class ter that! Gorry! What'll Sir James say?" CHAPTER 9